Hey everybody, this is Joseph Christ, editor over at 4Player Network and host of the Cocktail Time Live podcast, and this is my top 10 games of 2012. Number 10 is Comedy Night. Comedy Night is an Xbox Live indie game where the premise is simple. You're in a virtual comedy club and anyone can get on stage and do their thing. At the same time, anyone can also boo, scream, heckle, and just about make a nuisance of themselves in every way possible. Sure, it may be a strange addition to a top 10 list, but I can't tell you how many nights I sat there with a drink in my hand and laughed hysterically as people on stage were mercilessly savaged by the crowd with hilarious results. Or, the rare gem got up on stage with a good routine. It's a simple concept that offers a ton of entertainment value. Comedy Night. It's $1. Fuck it. Number 9 is Binary Domain. It's not easy to correctly intermingle a solvent stew of Western hedonism and Eastern ridiculousness, all the while not taking yourself too seriously in the process, but in 2012, Yakuza Studios did it with Binary Domain. This sci-fi tale of a ragtag bunch of soldiers just trying to save the world from robo-domination was just the thing we needed amongst more serious titles of the year, and its tongue-in-cheek attitude toward the action genre ensured that it would be entertaining until the very end. Adding great controls, witty dialogue, and robots that were just so damn fun to blow apart, and Binary Domain easily classed itself as a third-person shooter as good as the best of them. That alone would have been enough. But Binary Domain also contained some of the best boss fights I played all year, with action sequences that paid tribute to the classic boss fight while adding on contemporary shine. Sure, the voice control system was buggy at best, but sometimes its failures were more hilarious than anything, and I even admit that the game played better with them off. It was a game that a lot of people missed, but if you're watching now, I implore you to give it a shot. Number 8 is Max Payne. I think it's safe to say a few of us were worried about the prospect of a contemporary Max Payne game. Sure, it could go great, but there were also so many ways it could have gone wrong. Luckily, Rockstar exceeded everyone's expectations and delivered a Max Payne game worthy of the name and with all of the bells and whistles we have come to expect. Rockstar's portrayal of an older Max, weighed down by the cross of life and the burden of years of substance abuse, played well with the initial film noir setting, and acted as a good lead-in to a brighter atmosphere as Max traveled to Brazil in the later half of the game. There is something human about watching our video game heroes age and act accordingly, and like Old Snake from Metal Gear Solid 4, Max Payne dealt with the transition as we would expect him to, and also dealt out waves upon waves of death in the process. Along with great writing and storytelling, places where Rockstar usually shines, they also delivered on the shooting mechanics as well. And though Rockstar has historically struggled with this in the past, none of that could be seen here. Shootouts in Max Payne were a bare-knuckled and beautiful experience. A bit hectic at times, but always enjoyable to equally watch and play. Max Payne 3 was an outstanding comeback for our favorite clinically depressed rogue cop, and easily one of the best sequels we saw all year. Number 7, Planetside 2. Ah, Planetside 2. How you roped me in. How you pulled on the heartstrings of my past and delighted in offering me a sci-fi war zone of which there is simply no contemporary. Planetside 2 is the new FPS MMO from Sony Online Entertainment and offers a battlefield like you've never seen. Holding thousands of players at once in 3 large continents, size apparently does matter. And the scope of Planetside 2's battles make Battlefield 3 seem almost trite in comparison. Whether by air or ground, you'll be joining multiple platoons as you fight over bases to claim the supremacy for your faction. And the best thing about it is you won't have to spend a dime to do it. Planetside 2, as a free-to-play game, gives even the novice player the tools they need to succeed, while allowing those willing to spend a little money to dive deeper into the game's weapon systems without allowing them to pay to win. Planetside 2 came out late this year, so it's safe to say that it's an ongoing project with balance changes already going on, and new content in development. Still, even in this short time, its claws have sunk deep into me in a way that only my old EverQuest self remembers. Number 6 is FTL. Do you hear that? That's the sound of nothing. That's what you hear moments before your ship is boarded. Aliens begin destroying your equipment, killing your crew. That's the sound that heralds failure. Your ship explodes, and you loved every minute of it. FTL was one of the few downloadable games I played this year, but it was easily the best. This roguelike spaceship simulator from Subset Games puts you on the run from a rebel fleet as you race to deliver a message to the Federation waiting at the edge of the galaxy. The turn-based gameplay has you managing all of your ship's systems and crew in a way that will easily make you feel you're in training for the next opening on the Battlestar Galactica. That is, if you make it. Things can go very badly very quickly in FTL, requiring quick hands, solid preparation, and good management skills if you expect to survive long. All this is set to some of the best video game music we heard all year. Music that exemplifies the vastness of space, as well as the fighting laying ahead of you. Roguelikes have been more common this year than they've been in the past, but the horizon has been dreadfully barren of good space sims. Luckily, FTL is here to fill some of that vacancy. Number 5, The Witcher 2 Enhanced Edition. The Witcher series saw its debut on consoles this year, and CD Projekt Red couldn't have done a better job of it. Stunning graphics that didn't make console gamers feel sad about having only 518 megabytes of RAM, extra content created especially for the console release, and all the DLC up to that point added in for free, The Witcher 2 Enhanced Edition should be textbook as to how console ports should be handled. Furthermore, CD Projekt Red didn't feel compelled to pare down or streamline most of the RPG elements for a console crowd. Instead, they left them mostly untouched, making The Witcher 2 one of the few pure RPG experiences modern console gamers have. The story and world of The Witcher 2 was honest and brutal, and CD Projekt Red provided a decidedly adult experience that didn't feel the need to censor itself from suggestive themes in order to diversify their audience. Instead, they created a believable yet fantastical world that prides itself on the small details and entanglements. Combat and controls made for quick and entertaining combat, and the buff system added a great and necessary depth once you were able to fully understand them. The Witcher 2 is a port that can give ports a good name, and it makes me excited for what we'll be seeing from CD Projekt Red next. Number 4, Twisted Metal. This is the year we finally had another Twisted Metal game, and it delivered in almost every way possible. Great weapon systems, sprawling and thoughtful levels, and a new take on classic characters. There was very little to keep it out of my top 10. The thoughts of Twisted Metal often make you think of a multiplayer game. It also offered an in-depth single-player experience with brilliant boss fights and a sense of character that only the Twisted Metal series can offer. Yes, matchmaking and the lobby system for multiplayer was terribly broken upon release, but when you did get into a game, you were offered a delectable feast of classic car combat with a modern flair. And once those issues became mostly resolved sometime after release, there was no reason for anyone not to dig in. Twisted Metal proves that there still is life left in the car combat genre, and my hope is that Jaffe eventually decides to give it another go. This world deserves better than Blur and Blood Drive. Twisted Metal can be our savior. Number 3, XCOM Enemy Unknown. What could I say about XCOM that hasn't been said already? This modern take on the old PC classic was a runner for the top 10 right out of the gate, and who better to put it all together than Firaxis, creators of Civilization and Alpha Centauri. XCOM Enemy Unknown took everything we loved about the classic and streamlined it for the better, without affecting the quality of the source material. Researching alien technology, building up your base, and eventually even getting attached to your hand-picked squad made battle scenarios all the more tense and gratifying. The turn-based structure rewarded tactical play, and it's the thoughtful gamer who was able to succeed in the most overwhelming situations. Truly, the game really shined in Iron Man mode, where all of your decisions were final, and all of your mistakes catastrophic. Still, on normal difficulty, Iron Man mode was not necessarily brutal, but forced the player to take in the entire picture at all times, and forced the player to really get into the nitty-gritty of the systems. XCOM Enemy Unknown also proved that you can do a successful tactical RTS-type game on consoles, and have it be a commercial success in 2012. Number 2 is Dishonored. We knew for a long time that Arcane Studios was creating something wonderful, but I don't think any of us were prepared when Dishonored was finally released. A game that exists on multiple levels, just calling it a stealth assassination game is only telling part of the story. At its essence, it is very much that, but it's also an exploration game, and a systems experiment game as well. The levels in Dishonored have a way of opening themselves up the more time you spend within them, and slowly unveiling the overarching story the more nooks and crannies you seek out. The game systems themselves exist independent of each other, in such a way as they can collude with one another, making it a metagame just to see how many of Corvo's abilities you can string together at once. The art direction of Dishonored is like nothing we've seen. with everything seemingly painted with oil and watercolors. The effect is subtle, and blends the world in smooth palettes that augment the Victorian atmosphere well. Character designs are appropriately gruesome, yet sufficiently beautiful, and the architecture of Dunwall City is masterfully created. Dishonored is a game that begs to be played, and those who rush through the game in 8 to 10 hours undoubtedly missed much of what it has to offer. My advice is to go back and take your time. Explore. Dishonored is an open secret that yearns to be discovered. And my number one game of 2012, Dragon's Dogma. This might be, well, no, I'm actually sure, this is the D&D RPG nerd in me furiously masturbating with joy, but Dragon's Dogma touched me in my 20-sided bathing suit area like no other game in the past few years. Dragon's Dogma takes place in a living and dangerous world where even getting to your quest destination is an adventure in itself that requires preparation and resolve. Will it take you a few night cycles to get where you're going? Then be prepared for a fight, and for Dragon's Dogma to magically turn itself into a horror game as you slowly creep toward your destination with nothing but your quickly diminishing lanterns to light the way. Succeed, and you'll be rewarded with copious amounts of loot, and even raw materials to make loot of your own. The loot system itself is almost Diablo-esque in nature, and I spent more time than I would like to admit playing RPG Barbie with my main character, outfitting the best-looking armor with the best stats. The pawn system in Dragon's Dogma is just genius, and reminiscent of the outside-the-box multiplayer thinking that From Software utilized with Demon's Souls and Dark Souls. If you thought you got attached to your squad in XCOM, wait until you adventure for 100 hours with a companion you built from the ground up. Dragon's Dogma also is a deep skill and job class system that enables you to switch roles for a small fee whenever you go back to town. Tired of being an archer? Switch to a fighter and give that a go. You can do the same for your pawn as well, making preparation at town both an integral and wonderfully complex exercise. And you'll need to master those roles too. Dragon's Dogma features some of the most epic fights this year, and its final boss battle is undoubtedly my favorite boss battle of 2012. Of course, the secret of Dragon's Dogma is that the final boss battle isn't the end of the game at all. In fact, the game completely opens up just when you thought it was over, and when you thought you would have been loading in your next game, you're suddenly fighting a beholder in the Everfall. Dragon's Dogma offers up the classic RPG experience that even Skyrim couldn't offer in 2011, and it seems many of you agree since it was a commercial success for Capcom. Personally, I can't wait for a sequel, and maybe in 2013 we'll find out once again that all roads lead to Grand Sword. And that does it for 2012. Thanks to everyone for reading, listening, watching, and being a part of what we do at 4Player Network. We have exciting things planned for 2013, I hope to see you all be a part of it. Later.